It's a very close relative of Syrah and some other Rhone grapes. And it's probably only for just historical reasons that it's not included now. But some years ago, it was discovered that the parents of Syrah, the genetic parents, are a dark grape from west of the Rhone called and a white grape from east of the Rhone called Mondeuse Blanche. So the mother of Syrah is Mondeuse Blanche. There's another grape that is grown primarily in the Savoie, which means if you go like east of Hermitage up into the Alps, you're in the Savoie. And there's a grape there grown called Mondeuse Noire. And if you look at the genetic relationships among all these varieties, which we did some years ago, it becomes clear that Mondeuse Noire, which is what we have here today, is the equivalent of either Syrah's uncle, Syrah's half-brother, or Syrah's grandfather. And because there are some missing links in the family tree, we can't always say exactly what the relationship is, but that's the degree of the relationship. So Mondeuse is a close relative of Syrah. But in France, all the Mondeuse is grown in the Savoie, in the foothills of the Alps, in those nice cool valleys. And there, it makes a wine that is known to age very well. It has great flavor. It's typically fairly light-bodied, at least the ones that...
It's nothing like this.
That's right, nothing like this. So, the question that comes up is that, to somebody like me, is that if Syrah and Mondeuse are such close relatives, is it possible to discern that genetic relatedness in the wine? Well, if you grow Syrah here in the Rhone and you grow Mondeuse in the Savoie and you farm them differently and you make the wine differently, how can you possibly compare the inherent qualities of those grapes when you have so many other variables? So what we've decided to do, we being my husband Steve Leger, who's in the back row next to Patrick there, we decided a few years back that it would be fun to do the experiment ourselves, to plant Mondeuse on the same site as Syrah. We're on Mount Beater in Napa. It's a relatively cool site. We've been growing Syrah for quite some time, and Syrah grows very well there and makes a very complex wine. So we thought, well, let's plant some Mondeuse on the same site, side by side with our Syrah. Let's farm them the same. Let's make the wine the same. And then we can really ask the question, do they have any similarity in wine flavor? So that was kind of a long run experiment. It's taken us 5 years to get to the answer. The initial part was just trying to find the Mondeuse, the vines. And I looked around, and of course there are a lot of nurseries that sell grape vine material, but Mondeuse is a very minor grape, and there have been a lot of name confusion in California where it has been called Rapasco, but it's not the same as the Rapasco that's grown in Italy. There are also these old mixed vineyards that David has talked about that maybe have some Mondeuse in them, but also have a lot of other stuff. So if you want to plant a pure Mondeuse vineyard, you're going to have a very hard time getting the plant material. So I finally got our plant material at the university, and there were 2 vines in the collection, which we knew were authentic, and so we bought all the budwood from those 1 year, and then we had a commercial nursery get them for us, and we planted 400 vines of Mondeuse in 2007, and then made our first wine in 2009, and this is it. We made 45 cases.
And I should probably just, for anyone else who doesn't know the thing, you were at Davis for how long?
23 years.
23 years.
Yeah. So that was what I did, was to study the genetic relationships among varieties and to do DNA analysis of them to figure out how they were related to each other. So that's how we knew the relationship
anyone who's tasted your Syrah, it's the similarities.
Yeah, so it's been a very interesting experiment. Now, this is just our first crop. And as the vines get older, it'll become even more interesting. And as the wines get older, too, because this is young wine. And so, and by the way these wines were all made is that these are fermented in tea bins. There is, they're not whole clusters, these are completely crushed berries. Punched down 2 to 3 times a day. No extended maceration. Fermented in neutral French oak barrels that are usually, on the average, 6 or 7 years old. We buy them 3 times used, and then we keep them until they fall apart, and they become firewood. They're fantastic French oak barrels. Excellent, excellent.
I wonder how this fire that you're making.
It's my favorite. This will sparkle. Anyway, so it'll be interesting in the future. I must say, though, that Steve and I are very glad that we only planted 1/3 of an acre of this beast, because this is a difficult variety to grow. It produces a lot of fruit. And if you've ever had any experience with Syrah 877, which is a highly productive clone of Syrah that has huge clusters, that's what Mondeuse is like in our hands on our site. And so when the vines first develop their clusters in the spring, we can see that there's way too many clusters, so we cut a bunch off. And then as the clusters, as they flower and start to set fruit, we can see that the clusters are just so huge, so we cut the bottoms off. And then we go through again a couple of weeks later, after the berries have started to grow. Oh my God, there's just way too much fruit, so we cut half of it off. And we keep going throughout the season, we keep cutting half